This is a bit of an existential process where I'm speaking to my dining room and I'm hoping I'm communicating. So let's get this show on the road. Let's talk about job postings. You know why? Because I love job postings. I know I am the absolute nerdiest of the nerdiest. I love job postings. I also love resumes. Don't tell anybody. But we're going to start here. It's time to stop being subtle. There's no more time for subtleties. There's no more time for being nice. There's no more time for being, soft about it. We have to kind of get to the problem and we have to get to the solution. And honestly, we have to do this mostly because, everything changed. I don't know if you noticed this. It's all different. I don't know how many people are in that room are wearing masks or thinking about wearing masks, but I imagine the answer is not zero. That's new. That is not the way it used to be. And frankly, I did this slide once 3 years ago, and it just gets more so true. It's more demand, more competition, more productivity. Everybody's expecting more out of everybody, but we have less power as employers. We have less talent pools to reach. We have less attention to worry about. When you post your job postings, when you post ads to LinkedIn saying, hey, you should work with us, you are competing against Adam Grant and TED Talks and the LinkedIn equivalent of, rock stars. And no wonder no one pays attention to you. It's getting really hard out there. And the trick is, it's because you're treating them like candidates, and they're not candidates anymore. You've all seen the news. You've all seen the stories about how people are just walking off the job, right? That did not happen 3 years ago. That was not a thing, right? If it happened 3 years ago, it would have been the nightly news top story every single night. Tonight, this just in, people just stopped working. That never happened. That never happened before. And the trick is, this is the moment when we realize that these people we're trying to hire, these employees are not really employees. They're not even candidates. They're volunteers. The people we want to hire, the people who have talent, the people we want to bring into our offices and our job sites and our whatever, are the people who are going to create value. They can go anywhere. They're not locked into you. They can literally go anywhere. And so thus you have to treat them like volunteers, people who choose to work for you. Why, anybody here, and I can't see hands, I really apologize. This is not a good, use of this technology, but if you volunteer at the Red Cross, or you volunteer at your local animal shelter, or heck, even your local school district, your kid goes to school and occasionally you go in and you're the room dad or the room mom, right? You're volunteering. Why? Well, actually, that's the answer. There's a why involved. There's a reason why. You don't just get, I have too much time on my hands. I'm just going to go down to the animal shelter and play with some puppies. No, you care about animals, and therefore you volunteer for the shelter. You volunteer at the Red Cross. You volunteer to do whatever it is you volunteer to do because you have a why. And I think if the last 3 years have taught us anything, and I'm saying 3, not 1.5. I mean, it's this change has been burbling under the surface for a while. If this last 3 years have taught us anything, is that if you do not have a good why, people walk away. It's very simple. You have to give candidates a reason why they should show up to your office, to your job site, to your place of business, and show up and care. And if they don't have a good reason why, and by the way, the paycheck ain't enough. Sorry, I think you know that by now. If you don't give them that, they don't show up. Now, let's unpack that just a smidge, right? This idea of the why. Why should anyone work for you? Now, if I asked you on a napkin or a piece of paper, whatever you have handy, just to write down why anyone should work for you, I'm going to hear a couple of different things over and over and over again. Things like, hold on, do it. All right. We're a great place to work. Everybody says that. Everybody says that. The problem is the concept of we're a great place to work is literally half a sentence. Why? Because Goldman Sachs is a great place to work. Now, how many people here have heard the news about what's been going on at Goldman Sachs? Their junior analysts are working literally 100 hours, 110 hours a week. They're not going home. They're bathing in the bathroom in the office because they're being worked to death, they said. But they can still call Goldman Sachs a great place to work. Why? Because these are people who have chosen to give pretty much their entire 20s to never flying coach ever again. Ever, right? TSA is nothing. They're looking at the private jet. They're looking at being millionaires by the time they're 32 and being independently wealthy by the time they're 40. That's their why. That is their why. Now, that's not everybody's why. A lot of people like working at the post office. Their post office can say, yeah, the post office, I said it. The post office can say, we're a great place to work. What do you mean? Well, if you're not interested in worrying and spending 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day worrying about work, if you like structure, if you like rigid constructs, if you like knowing at 5 o'clock, you just clock out and you're done. If you know that after 25 hours, or I'm sorry, 25 years of work, there's this thing called a pension. Is that even a word? A pension? I think that's a word. A pension at the end of the rainbow. And that's what you're doing it for, because you'd rather spend your time drinking beer or writing poetry or starting a website. I don't know what you're doing with your time. To them, the post office is a great place to work. Those two things are completely different, because this sentence right here, we're a great place to work, is half a sentence. The other half of the sentence is, for whom? For whom are you a great place to work? And if you don't know for whom you are an amazing place to work, you're toast. This is not a statement. This is not a complete sentence. We care. Everybody says that. We care about our employees. Really? Let me take a look at your benefits program. Really? You got a maternity room? Do you have more than the legal minimum of paternity and maternity leave? What do you care about? Again, half a sentence. We care. What about? About our bottom line? About helping you grow? About the puppies? About saving the whales? What do you care about? And if you can't answer that, stop saying we care, because that's not, again, it's not a complete answer. Last one. We help you grow. Grow what? My salary? My waistline? I mean, I've been working in my dining room for the year and a half. I can guarantee you the pandemic body yeah, this is not good. What are you helping me grow? My soul? What are you helping me grow? My future? My network? What? Again, half an idea. Now, if you understand and embrace this idea that that's not enough information, that's not a why, welcome. Come on in. We're about to solve some problems. You ready? Okay, great. I'm James Ellis. That's me. See, that's pre-pandemic body right there. Pre-pandemic. I look good. Now, no, I'm not standing up. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not standing up. You don't have to see that. I've been an employer brand nerd for 7-8 years now. I've written books. It's free, by the way. If you are half the employer brand nerd I am, go to employerbrandbook.com. The book is free. The book isn't just free. It's open source. You literally go to a Google Doc where the complete text and diagrams of all the book is right there. Copy it, paste it, do what you want with it. Go nuts. Get better at employer branding. If you're also that kind of nerd, if you take your supercomputer, you all got one of these in your pockets or on the table somewhere, probably staring at it right now. Yeah, I know. Do the QR code and you can subscribe to my newsletter. It's free, but it's all for employer brand people. It helps you keep smarter and sharper about employer brand stuff. Okay, away we go. By the way, I'll bring that QR code back and I'll do it at the end of the presentation. Okay, so here's why job postings suck. And I think we should just go ahead and admit, let's just skip to the part where we admit they suck. They're all horrible. They're rough. And there's a reason, in fact, there's a lot of reasons why they're horrible. And the first one is no one owns it. I've worked at big companies. I've worked at small companies. I've worked at places with more than 100 people in the TA team. I've worked at places where I think there were more HRBPs than there were recruiters. I have worked at a lot of different places in a lot of different shapes and a lot of different, kind of form factors. And the answer is no one ever actually owns a job posting. It's a game. You ever seen that meme where Spider-Man's pointing at another Spider-Man? It's every HRBP pointing at a recruiter who's pointing at the hiring manager who's pointing at the HRBP. Everybody thinks somebody else should do the thing. Do you have a copy editor on staff for your recruiting? No, of course not. So nobody owns them. Consequently, nobody can be blamed for them. I know. Welcome to Cynical Hour. Hi, I'm your host. 50 years of bad habits have led us to this because it's 50 years in which we just assumed we were in charge, that we had all the power. We have the job. We have what you want. Come and get it. Line forms to the left. I am old enough to remember the time, and maybe one or two of you in this room are as old as I am, or maybe even older. I'm sorry. A time in which you were looking for a job and it involved waiting till Sunday Why Sunday, you say? Well, because that's when the newspaper, which is the internet but printed on paper, would list job openings. And when I say job openings, many of them were this big. They would say job title, PO box, that was it. And yet people sent their resumes to those things. You know why? Because they had the jobs and they needed one. Those days are gone, long gone. You have, and you should embrace this, no more power. None. You are the beggar here. You are the Oliver Twist saying, please, sir, can I have some employees? That is the position of power you are in right now. And my middle name is Oliver, so I can make Dickens jokes. It's okay. Don't worry. Anyway, candidates want more information. Recruiters want more process. Recruiters don't like to give information, like to hoard information because they wait till that phone call when they can parcel it out to control the line of information. Recruiters want all the knowledge. Why do you think Glassdoor is a thing? Not because we like it, we hate it. It's horrible, it's painful, it's a mess. But recruiters are like, oh, thank God, something, anything. It doesn't even have to be well-sourced. It doesn't even have to be completely accurate. It's information. Thank you. And ultimately, and this is the kicker, and I apologize if I'm going to say this, and this is probably more true for some of you than others. Everybody wants to be unique, but nobody ever wants to be different. Everybody wants to stand out, but they want to stand out by kind of doing it the same way everybody else does, whether it's called best practices, whether it's called, what does Google do? And let's be fair, every company plays a little bit of game of what does Google do and just does that. That's not how you differentiate yourself. This is a game, in fact, of differentiating. And that's what we're going to talk about. Now, the solution, the first part of the solution is to say something meaningful, not about you, but to them. And remember, that's a getting test, that why. Why should they care about you? When you say you care, when you say you're a great place to work, what's the why? Take that why and look at it and say, does anybody else in my space, whether it's my industry or my just general geography or my talent competition set, does anybody say anything like this? If they don't, congratulations, you found a differentiated position. That's a magical, very expensive word that you can use with your boss right before you ask for a raise to say, this is what we're going to talk about. 2, this is crucial. If there's any HRBPs in the room, you're in for it. Job descriptions are legal documents. They are things that say, this is all the tasks in a job. You must be able to lift a certain amount of weight. You must have a car or reliable transportation. These are legal documents. They are horribly written. Again, legal documents. No one goes, ooh, it's time for bed. I'm going to go read some legal briefs. No one has said that. No one is hoping they convert a legal brief into a movie. Netflix is not optioning legal briefs. They're boring. They're hard to read. They're just atrocious. But we use them as job postings. We say, okay, well, that's the description of the job. Here, public, this is the job. Except this is your opportunity to make a marketing document, to say something interesting about this job. Now, when you post something to Indeed or LinkedIn or Glassdoor or wherever you post your jobs, no one expects it to be a legal document. And you may talk to your HRBPs and your legal team about all the different ramifications, but it really just means you don't have to be comprehensive about every single task they have to do. You don't have to put and all duties as assigned, which is just the catch-all for, I don't know what you're going to do, but you're going to do it when I tell you to do it. That is unnecessary. It's a marketing document, not a technical document. It's like if you were to watch a TV commercial for a car and then they just showed you the manual. No one needs that. Give them a reason to get excited. Think about marketing, not legal. 3rd solution. Stop thinking about your job postings as documents or as a document. One of the biggest problems I have is that people and recruiters and HRBPs, they write the job posting and they go, oh, I'm done. What, you're never hiring again? Give me a break. You're coming back to this the next week. Don't pretend it's never happening again. Don't pretend it's a once in a lifetime sort of situation. Don't think of it as a document. Think of it as a process. And that's what we're going to build today, a process for building job postings. What does that process look like? So glad you asked. Here it is. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Oh, no, you need information. Okay, that's probably useful. This is a model of what a job posting should look like. That is, at the beginning of the job post, explain the company. And don't just give me the boilerplate. Don't just give me the stuff straight out of your financials. Nobody cares about that. What I want you to say right here isn't just, we're the world's finest manufacturers of T-joints and blah, 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 blah. No one cares. Explain in very simple terms how your company is creating some sort of change in the universe. I don't mean to be all fuzzy bunny and hippy dippy here. I mean, every single company exists to make a change, right? Everyone. You're Duracell, you exist to make better batteries so that people have power when they need it. It sounds a little marketing-y, but that's really the reason that company exists. Your company has a reason it exists. It has a change it is trying to make in the world. Write it down. 2, team. Okay. What does the team do? And how does it support the company and whatever change it's making in the world? Okay. It doesn't have to be a lot of information. It could be 2 sentences. This is what the team does, and this is how the team supports this bigger mission. Very straightforward. I know it sounds easy, and it is, but hold on. We're gonna see how it all comes together. Thirdly, the job itself. This is the normal paragraph or 3 that you write about. We are seeking a blah, 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 blah to do a thing, blah, 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 whatever. To write that, put that there. After that, write 2 sentences, maybe even 3. Go crazy. The text is free about your culture. How do you do what you do? How does the process work? Are you friendly? Are you competitive? And there are no wrong answers here. There's no bad answers here. If you're competitive, no one goes to Goldman Sachs thinking, we're all friendly. No, they're all looking for knives to stab in each other's backs. That's the game. That's the job. They're very competitive. They're there to win, even if they have to beat each other to do it. Plenty of places that's the absolute opposite is true. And that's fine too. You're neither one of those. Okay, great. Talk about your culture of you're very supportive. Talk about how you're very independent. Talk about how this is all about find an opportunity and drive the opportunity. Talk about the growth people have and how they support each other in their growth. Find the culture. Talk about it. Also, by the way, if you're one of those companies who've written some stuff about culture and turned it into posters and stuck it on the wall, ignore those. Okay, so talk about culture in a more meaningful way. Now, this seems really simple, and it is, but it's useful when you realize what's really happening. Why does this job exist? What is this job about? How will you do this job? Those of you who went to journalism school may realize, oh no, I've actually described this job pretty darn well. Almost by accident, almost, you didn't want to, but here it is. If you describe these 4 ideas, you've given the why, the what, and the how of this job. There's also one more magic thing that's happened here. Actually, I'm going to write that here. Let's do it this way. So one more time again, it's a paragraph about who the company is and the change you're making, a paragraph about the team and how they're supporting that company and how they're making that change, the paragraph about the role and how it supports the, how it supports the team, and a paragraph about how it gets done. What you're really doing here is creating a very clear line between what the company exists to do, whether it's big or small, it doesn't matter, and how this job helps it. No one wants a job. No one wants a job where it doesn't matter. No one wants a job where they cannot see how their work, their toil, their sweat, their passion, their whatever seems to just dissipate like ice melting, right? There are plenty of people right now who just go, why am I filling out this paperwork? Why am I putting this put data together? What is this I'm doing for? What is the purpose here? And they can't see it. Now, I'm going to put this in crystal clear terms. And I don't mean to be pejorative in any way. And I'm not trying to be here, but think of the lowest level employee in every single company. Perhaps someone who works in workplace support or janitorial services. Right? If your mission of the company, heck, let's pretend we're Elon Musk for half a minute, except without the whole let's flee the earth sort of situation. Let's pretend we're working on Tesla or SpaceX. We have this massive mission to change the world by doing this massive technology thing. And you're the janitor there. And you see a job posting, and this is be a janitor. And they talk about this amazing mission. You're like, cool. And you're the janitor. Oh, okay. I don't see how those 2 things connect. You're going to Mars. I'm sweeping up dirt. I don't get it. But if you say, this is the company, this is the team and how it supports the company, and this is how the role supports the team, you're creating a clear through line between how your job matters to the mission. And that underscores the idea that your job matters. Subtext, you matter. That's not something you see very often in job postings, sadly. And we should. It's super important. You're effectively saying, I see you and I see your value enough to write a job posting that doesn't completely suck. Please come on in. Now, anybody who likes to think about job postings, they know there's a conversation around, are bullets necessary? And I don't live in either camp. I can go either way. I'm not a big deal. But if you're going to use bullets, let's talk about bullets, because bullets have to be done properly, right? The bullets of duties and tasks and requirements. Start by changing those labels, because those labels suck. Those labels sound like robots arguing with lawyers wrote them, okay? And no one wants to work at that company. I don't know what that company is, but nobody wants to be a part of that company. So instead of duties and tasks, here's what your day will be like, or here's what you'll be doing, or here's some of the things you work on. Doesn't it sound like a human wrote it instead of a lawyer? And yeah, I just equated lawyers as being non-humans. What are you going to do? I'm in Chicago. What can you do? What can you do? Anyway, instead of saying requirements, say the kinds of people we want to talk to have a lot of the following. Say, we're excited if you have. Say, we assume a lot of great candidates will have some of these things. Why? Okay, yes, being human, that's good. But the other really interesting thing here is that you're opening the doors. There's you all know Sephora, they're the makeup company. They have retail locations all around the country and probably globally. If I asked you how many women work in your coding or engineering side, I'm going to guess you're sitting in the single, maybe just cracking the double digits. Sephora, 70% of their developers are women, not 17, 70. Why? It's because women who code love lipstick, obviously. No, come on. What it is that's a whole company who make nothing but products mostly for women, owned by a company of women, and they're staffed by women. And so therefore they talk to women about things that women care about. And thus, you know who shows up? Thank you. Okay, I don't have to spell that out. You're all smart people. That's what they do. What they say is not requirements, but we're excited if you have. They say, we assume great candidates are going to have some of the following because the statistics are crystal clear. If you call those things requirements and you have 6 of them, and I'm a dude and I hit 5 of them, I go, sure, what the hell? I'm hitting the button, apply. But the numbers are pretty clear. If you're a woman and you only hit 5 of them, you go, I'm not qualified. And you walk away. Do you want your candidates to walk away? No. So change the language, change the label. There's another part that makes bullets magical. Ready? It's a model by which you actually write the bullets. And this is going to look like gobbledygook for about the next 30 seconds. And I will make it all clear, I promise. Instead of writing the bullets the way you write them, right? Must have 7+ years experience of blah, 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 blah. Must know Tableau. I don't know, whatever you want. Instead, write them in this model. Here is an experience or skill to do a task in order to achieve some sort of goal or purpose, right? Take a picture of this, because I mean, when I say magic, I mean magic. It's just amazing stuff what this does. Let me show you how it works. So instead, oh yeah, right. Thank you, me. Thank you, past me, who wrote this slide. So you think you're trying to document a job with these bullets, but that's not what you're doing, because that's actually impossible. By the way, 30-second side here. The reason why it's impossible is because jobs aren't jobs anymore. They change. The second you write down what that job is the second you said, I have a set of instructions on what that job should be. Turn it, give it to a robot. All good jobs are, hey, help us solve these problems. We don't have all the answers. And tomorrow, the problems will probably change. So therefore, your job will probably change. So stop pretending that you can document a job and put it in a box. Very few jobs do that, right? Very few. And if they do, again, replaced by robots very shortly. So instead of thinking about this as just documenting a job, which, what are you, an anthropologist? No, probably not. What you're actually doing is creating proof points. What you're doing is saying, when we say we're all about these things, this is what we mean. It connects a dot between, here are the things we're asking you to have. Then you say, why? Why do we want you to have these things? And what this does very quickly is it suddenly makes that whole must have 7 years experience in blah, 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 kind of fall apart, crumble like old cheese, right? It's just like, yeah, why 7 years? Why not 6.5? Why not 6? Why even have a college degree? Why have those things? Are they legitimately necessary to have those things? No. I always tell tech recruiters who say things like, well, they must have X number of years experience in this programming language, and they must have a college degree. I said, okay, if I brought you, I don't know, some guy named Zuckerberg and said he would like to work here, would you hire him? They go, yeah, of course. I said, well, he's neither a college degree nor those years of experience in the coding language, so you're a liar, stop lying. If they're really requirements, keep them, write them this way. If they're not requirements, get rid of them. Okay. Let me give you some examples of what I mean here. Ready? Must have intermediate Excel experience is a line I see all the time, and I still have no idea what it means because it means something different to everybody, right? Does intermediate experience, does that mean you understand how to go from cell to cell? Does it mean you know what a formula is? Does it mean you actually know what a VLOOKUP is? And for those of you who know Excel, you're following right along, and wunderbar. Thank you so much. People who don't know what intermediate looks like. They don't know that you can literally code inside an Excel spreadsheet. It's amazing stuff. You get macros and all sorts of whatever, VBA scripts. If you don't know, you don't know. So when you say must have intermediate Excel experience, you're kind of saying nothing except Excel's a thing we think we care about. But if you rate that to be, you will use Excel, experience or skill, to run pivot tables, which is the task, in order to find sales opportunities, magic has happened, right? First off, not you must have Excel, but this is the things inside Excel we want you to do. Now it's not, what does intermediate mean? It goes, oh, pivot tables. I know that or I don't know that. Simple as that. And then there's the other part that says, in order to find sales opportunities. You're not running pivot tables for the sake of seeing how fast your computer can melt. You're doing it because you're supporting the company. Oh, suddenly you see how this bullet connects to that larger model of let's create that line from the mission of the company to what the person's doing. This is doing the exact same thing. You're connecting what the task or the skill or the expertise is to why and how it helps the company. Here, I'll give you another one. This must have X number of years of recruiting experience. Again, garbage, means nothing. I know geniuses who have that many years experience in recruiting, and I know idiots who have that many years experience, but they have the same amount of experience. So how can you tell? That years of experience doesn't matter. Instead, you will identify candidates. There's the skill that will help our teams. Okay, that's the task in order to grow the business. Okay, I can connect the dots. My other favorite one I didn't have a slide here is for, and my favorite only because it's a little weird, is must have excellent writing and verbal skill sets. Also sometimes written as must have excellent written and oral skills, which is weird. And please don't write that. Okay, just don't. Because when you say things like must have excellent written and verbal skill set, does that mean I need to write a novel or a haiku or I'm performing on stage? No, what it means is you got to write an email so that when someone reads the email, they go, I understand. Simple as that. So stop writing that whole must have excellent written, blah, blah, blah. Garbage, throw it out. Okay. That's the model. That's how you write job postings that matter. That's how you write job postings that anybody can write. Think about it here. I'll even take a step back here. One of the nice parts about this is if you think about it, you only have to write that company paragraph once. You only have to write that culture paragraph once. You only have to write that team paragraph a couple of times until you've documented all the teams. And suddenly you have all this copy, all this language, all this narrative around what the company is and how those teams support the company. You just go to the other team, copy those sections, drop them in your new one and write your paragraph about the job. And suddenly it didn't take long for you to write an excellent job posting. This is a process waiting to happen. You just have to commit to the model. And once you commit to the model and bake into the process, you will stop having job postings that suck. All right. That's my presentation. Hopefully that's enough stuff for you, but I would love to hear your questions, assuming the technology allows us to do so. Otherwise, I will simply play with a puppet and we will talk about employer brand. And I mean, that's fun for me, but maybe not for you. So you should probably step up and ask questions. I think Heather's got some microphones somewhere, and let's talk.
All right. Can you hear us okay?
I can. Oh, look out.
All right. So they're going to get some microphones and walk around.
Here's that slide in case anybody wants to do the thing.
Okay.
Man, I look good in that picture. Long ago.
It's on. Do you want me to untuck you? This is good. We have
Any questions, anyone? Raise a hand.
I will answer any questions, including who cuts my hair.
Oh, okay. Anonymous here, and here's the question.
Marcus Smith. I run a couple businesses, and I am interested. I'm actually going through the hiring process now, so you shared a lot of good information. I really appreciate that. And I did take pictures, so I hope that was okay. I'm asking for forgiveness. Okay, so with that said, what do you think with the different generations have an impact? You know, millennials, Gen Z, there is so much difference. You know, some, they just don't want to stay. They'll move job to job here versus others. How does that impact everything equal?
You know what? There's a lot of data around the generations, and actually I've been very hip deep in a lot of that data and where that comes from and what that is all. Ultimately, for those of you who don't believe in the whole generation thing, it all stems from this idea of functionally, what was the economy like the day you graduated college, right? For those of us in Gen X, yes, I just outed myself out as being old. I think I did that already. We were walking into a really atrocious economy. That sounds a lot like what millennials did and what Gen Z are, you know, they're terrified of that happening. They can't tell when they're landing. That's all that is. It's valid, it's useful, it does inflect, it does influence people's perceptions of work and why they do what they do. I think watching the pandemic hit everybody and say, hey, maybe the job doesn't have to be your complete end all be all of life. Maybe you can ask for more, maybe you can expect more. I think that matters. However, a job posting like this ultimately spans generations because you're simply saying, look, this is what we offer. This is who we think would value what we have to offer. Do you want to be a part of that? And not to beat a trope to death here, but it is a lot like dating. And it's not about saying, look, I know what I look like, and I've been married multiple times. That means multiple women have said, yeah, I'll pick that one, which is saying something because I look like this. We all know, right? I don't need to look like a Helmsworth. I do not need to look like a model. I do not need to look amazing to get the partnership I desire. And that's not me just being denigratively fun because that's fun, but more to say, unless you're Google, anybody here from Google? No? Okay, moving on. Anybody Amazon? Anybody? No. So you don't need to hire 1,000 people this week. Amazon literally needs to hire 1,000 people this week. Google is pretty close. You don't need everyone to love you. What you need to do instead is say specifically, this is the kind of person we think is going to be super happy. And you express that through the job posting. This is what we expect you to do. This is why we want you to do it. If that sounds interesting to you, this is a place you should be a part of. What the job posting like this does is says, I don't need to be attractive to everybody. I need to be attractive to the 5 people who go, ooh, oh, that's really interesting. I want to be a part of that. Because you're only going to hire one of them anyway. What do you need 100 for? So yes, generations behave different. They have different ways of looking at work. They have different ways of, their motivations are slightly different, though not that different, actually, the research shows. But ultimately, they just want to know, what are they getting into? I don't know how many people are waiting for questions, so let me kind of take this one step further. You know how everybody talks about salary and, you know, when that's like the first question every recruiter asks, and that's the second question every candidate asks because they know that can't be the first one because then they look like a jerk. It's the first thing on your mind. It's the first thing on your mind. It's the first thing on their mind. As a wise man once said, Maybe the reason they're only talking about money is because you haven't given them anything else to talk about. No one says, hey, would you like to join the Red Cross? We pay really well. Why? No, they don't say that. They don't. They say we save lives. That's the reason you show up. No one says, hey, you're a teacher, you're pretty dumb because you could have made a lot more money someplace else. No, they're there for a reason. The money is there because we have nothing else to talk about. What happens is if you look at the entire interview process, only one fact is guaranteed to be true throughout the entire process, and that is the offer letter at the end of this thing, the number on the table. Every line on a resume could have been a lie. Every line in the job posting could have been a lie. Everything the candidate said could have been BS. Everything the interviewer could have said could have been BS. The only actual legitimate guaranteed fact is the number on the offer. That's a problem, because if that's the only thing that you can guarantee to be true, that's the only thing you can worry about. So your job is to be crystal clear on why and then prove it as much as possible. But then we start to get into employer brand space. And that's 2 more hours of me talking, and you're not ready for that yet. I hope that kind of helped out. I hope that made it pretty clear that regardless of the generation, this kind of model just tells people what they want to know. It's not that radical. It's just, we don't like to think about job postings. We mostly hold our nose and go, I hope we're done with this soon.
Any other questions?
Started with, how does somebody get started? This process. If there's a lot of information that you provided, as you said, how does somebody identify what the first step should be?
So,
Sorry.
so I
How
know,
do they evaluate what they, how do they mark themselves? What is that good point? What tells them that they're unique?
I'm going to ask you to ask that question one more time because you cut out a little bit. This is a really interesting question, I think. I just want to make sure I got it.
How does somebody get started with identifying what their first step should be? And how do they determine whether or not they, what makes them unique?
That is a great question. The numbers are pretty hilarious. There's like 18 million businesses in the United States alone, 18 million businesses, all who think they're special and different, unique little snowflakes, and they're changing the world in their own particular way. And they are. The differences are not always obvious. The difference between, let's say, a Google and an American Standard is pretty night and day, despite the fact that their job postings look remarkably similar, but that's neither here nor there. They're very different companies. And that's a really easy kind of like compare contrast to make. The difference between 2 plumbing companies, that's hard to say. That is hard to say. And so what you need to do is say, understand first off, what's around you. If you're hiring, and I'm just picking on plumbers because it just popped in my head. If you're trying to hire plumbers or hire people to work in a plumbing factory or a plumbing warehouse or a distribution facility, or even driving trucks to go take plumbing supplies from place to place, those jobs would normally be referred to as commoditized, right? They're kind of the same job wherever you go. But you also know that the difference between getting someone really good and really who cares and is passionate about helping people and someone who just kind of phones it in is night and day. Those 2 people are inherently almost the same. The difference between those 2 people is very, very minimal. So you can take a lesson to say, okay, I don't have to be radically different. I don't have to be the plumbing's version of Google and offer everybody free M&Ms and snack rooms every day. I can find something that I say, this is what I care about most. Maybe it's that you care about making sure everybody goes home at 5, that you care about work-life balance. Maybe it's that you care that people are learning and growing and they have not a job, but an opportunity at a career. Maybe what you're offering is a chance to collaborate and feel like they're part of something bigger. Maybe what you're offering is a chance to say, to have some opportunity to say, look, take this however you want, take this in whatever direction you want. It's up to you. You determine your own level of involvement. Those things are fuzzy. They're fairly abstract, certainly. But if you look at the 3 other plumbing warehouses in your area, they're not saying those things. So pick something that is true for you that they aren't saying. Honestly, for most companies, that level of depth, which is not very deep at all, that level of examination is night and day. over what most companies do. Most companies say, I have a paycheck, do you want a job? It's a very transactional world. We're trading your time for this money, and that's it. Maybe you can say, look, we're a place where it's not so much that at our office, we have to go on the company picnic. It's that the employees organized a softball league and the CEO shows up and gives money, make sure they have t-shirts. There's some story that is unique to you. Now, again, you don't have to tell a story that everybody falls in love with. You're not Amazon or Google. You just have to get a handful of people to go, that's interesting. That I've had some bad experiences other places. That sounds like a place I'd want to work. That's the game right there. Now, as your jobs become more complicated or more specialized or more niche, you can take it further, but that's really I've done dozens of audits for dozens of companies about how do you establish what your brand position is. That's the nuts and bolts. Look around, see what they're saying, and you look on their career site, you look on their social media, you look at their job posting, you circle any words that are unusual that you don't expect to see. Establish what those positions are and go, okay, what's the open space? If every bank is talking about how much they care for their people, well, you got to find a way to say maybe, I don't know, you offer opportunity for them to grow. Is it radically different? No, but it's enough for you to say, that's the thing I'm standing on. That's enough of a difference for me to say, this is why people work here. That's really all it is. And then you dress it up and then you put, some creative around it to make it really sing if you need to, but that's where you start. Last call for questions.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question actually.
Yeah.
So we've written the most awesome brand focus marketing job post that we can. Where do we get this in front of potential candidates?
Okay, now we're in a world of I apologize, I'm splitting hairs because again, nerd. And that's recruitment marketing. That's when you figure out, okay, you have to understand where your candidates live, not like where their addresses are, but do they live on Facebook or do they live on Indeed? When they're looking for a job, do they go? So if you're looking for a engineer or that's maybe a physical engineer, maybe you go to LinkedIn to hire that person. If you're looking to hire a nurse, don't bother. They're not there. If you're looking to hire an apprentice, don't bother going to LinkedIn, go to Indeed, maybe go to Facebook. If every channel has its different audience, and if you know who you're looking for, you start with that channel. Once you kind of get the obvious stuff, and the obvious ones are LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Facebook to some extent, Google for jobs, if you can push your jobs out to them, that's fantastic. And there's plenty of companies like ZipRecruiter and Glassdoor who will happily take your money to push those jobs in front of people who do not want to see them, but hey, they get paid in volume. Start there. Just kind of start there and see what works. Every business, every industry, every job is a little different. You end up kind of getting a feel for it. At the same time, if you're a big enough company that you have a recruiting staff, okay, start building competencies inside that. If you're hiring a bunch of machine learning experts, your recruiters need to know a little bit about machine learning so they can talk the talk. They don't have to walk the walk, but they have to talk it out, right? They have to kind of get those people attracted. What are things that machine learning experts care about? What are the things they look for? They have to understand that. That's a little higher level. And for bigger companies that have recruiting and TA functions, you have to do that. And that kind of in turn tells you, okay, what are the channels those have to be in front of? If you're not that big, start with the basics, just saying something different. Here's it's late at night. I'm going to work blue for a second. There was a guy, a hacker, who was looking to get a date, he said gently, and he was having a problem. He was on Match.com, and he was like, I'm swiping like it's Tinder. It's not. Those are different things. I know. I'm not that old. And he's like trying to look for a date. And he's saying, I like this woman. I like this woman. I like this woman. Nobody's responding. He goes, what is going on? And then he has the bright idea saying, you know what? I'm going to go make a profile as a woman. I'm going to go on the inside to see what they see. Because maybe it's not so much that they're rejecting me. Maybe there's something else going on. I need to see it from their perspective. And so he made a profile of a moderately attractive woman and said some nice things and kind of made himself the kind of girlfriend he thought he would want and put it out there. And he said, a day later, my email blowed up because every dude in the known universe said, ooh, you're great. I want to date you. And he goes, oh my God, I got thousands of messages and they all sounded the same. Hey, saw your profile. Hey, saw your profile. Hey, saw your profile. Which, by the way, sounds like every recruiter I've ever heard. Hey, saw your profile on Indeed. Hey, saw your profile on LinkedIn. Hey, saw your profile. If you don't understand that you sound like everybody else, you're toast. So what he actually learned, and I'm not going to swear because there's swearing involved. He said he learned and he tested a bunch of things. He said the thing that got him the most response was swearing at them. F you. That was the subject line, because the woman would be like, what the what? And would open up and he would make a joke. Now he sold it really well, good for him, but he was just being different for the sake of being different. And in a space where everybody's the same, just that little bit of difference was enough. So if you're trying to get some attention to your jobs, don't do what everybody else does. That in-mail that every recruiter sends, Ace, I just saw your profile, throw it out. Throw it out. Come up with something else to talk about. If you get good, you start to realize it's not about, do you want this job? Do you want this job? It's about, I got you something. And then 4 days later, I got you something else. And then 3 days later, hey, thought about you, gave you this. And at this point, the candidate's like, what is going on? This person's really crazy or interesting, and I like what they're sending me. And the fourth email is, hey, would you be interested in talking about this job? Well, you've built a little rapport, you've built a little trust, they're willing to engage. There's a lot of different tricks and a lot of different tactics to engaging people on that space using the same old channels. Half of it really is be willing to try, be willing to be different. That's where I'd start.
James, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We truly appreciate it. Let's give James a
Thanks, everybody. I had a great time. I'm so glad that you guys could invite me. Again, feel free to link to me on LinkedIn and newsletter me. I am always online. You can't shut me up, as you figured out. Happy. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for inviting me. I guess I'll talk to y'all later.